A political storm is brewing in Washington, D.C., and it's poised to wreak havoc on the entire country. The question on everyone's mind: how did we get here? And why are powerful figures like Donald Trump and Elon Musk suddenly turning against one of their own? MAGA Mike Johnson, the newly elected Speaker of the House, found himself in the eye of the storm when his plan to prevent a government shutdown was sabotaged by the very forces that were supposed to support him. A continuing resolution, introduced to keep the government running, now hangs in the balance. But the bill is facing unprecedented opposition that came from some of the most influential figures in modern American politics, Donald Trump and Elon Musk. What's happening behind the scenes, and why are these figures throwing the government into chaos? In this video, we'll explore the reasons behind this shocking turn of events, the forces working against Johnson, and what it all means for the future of the American government. The consequences of this government shutdown could be disastrous, not just for government workers, but for all Americans. Let's examine the unfolding crisis in full. The continuing resolution, a last-minute effort to avert a shutdown. The issue at the heart of this crisis is simple: a government shutdown. Each year, the government faces the threat of shutting down because Congress fails to pass a budget. This year, MAGA Mike Johnson, the new Speaker of the House, introduced a continuing resolution, CR, in an attempt to avoid such a calamity. A CR is essentially a short-term funding measure that allows the government to keep operating while lawmakers continue working on a more permanent solution. It's a temporary band-aid to prevent the chaos and hardship caused by a shutdown. But in the Republican-controlled House, things aren't so simple. MAGA Mike Johnson, a fervent ally of the Trump-era GOP, faced tremendous pressure from within his own party as well as from outside forces. While Johnson's CR seemed like a routine piece of legislation to avoid disaster, the situation soon became much more complicated. The vote for the CR was set for Wednesday at 5 p.m., and the stakes were high. A government shutdown would have catastrophic consequences: workers furloughed, federal services halted, and government workers facing delayed or canceled paychecks. Johnson's plan was straightforward: keep the government funded, avoid the chaos, and buy more time for negotiations. But in the world of Washington politics, things rarely go according to plan. Elon Musk's attack, a digital crusade against the bill. Enter Elon Musk, the billionaire tech mogul and owner of X, formerly Twitter. Musk, who has become increasingly involved in politics, used his social media platform to launch a direct attack on the continuing resolution. His posts were not just opinions or critiques, they were a full-fledged campaign aimed at preventing the passage of the bill. In a series of posts that flooded X, Musk used his massive influence to whip up opposition to the CR. Musk's posts were dramatic and inflammatory. He called the CRs criminal and posted images of himself holding a samurai sword, signaling that the bill should be killed. Musk's rhetoric was clear: if any member of Congress voted in favor of the CR, they should be voted out of office. He even amplified the message by posting memes that showed government shutdowns as a form of economic catharsis, claiming that austerity measures were necessary for the long-term good of the country. But Musk didn't stop there. In another tweet, he argued that the government should be completely defunded for 33 days, suggesting that the country could function without a federal government for nearly a month. According to Musk, this could help the economy reset and lead to greater prosperity down the line. His comments echoed his broader libertarian philosophy, one that often champions reducing government intervention in favor of market-driven solutions. Musk's campaign against the CR tapped into the more radical corners of the conservative base and created a wave of opposition that Johnson couldn't withstand. Musk's digital influence was undeniable. Within hours, Republicans across the country began echoing his calls to kill the bill. Musk was effectively wielding his vast social media presence to force a shutdown and to push his own ideological agenda. Donald Trump's incoherent critique. But Elon Musk wasn't the only one making waves. Donald Trump, the former president who still wields tremendous influence over the Republican Party, entered the fray with his own rambling critique of the situation. Trump's comments, however, were far from coherent and seemed to only add to the confusion. In a lengthy post, Trump criticized congressional Republicans for allowing the United States to hit the debt ceiling in 2025 and suggested that the CR should not pass unless the debt ceiling was addressed. The debt ceiling and the continuing resolution, however, are two completely separate issues, making Trump's comments both confusing and irrelevant to the task at hand. Despite the disconnection between the two topics, Trump pressed forward with his demands. He argued that the debt ceiling should be raised, but only under President Biden's watch. Trump suggested that this would be a political victory for the Republicans, as it would allow them to blame Biden for the economic consequences of raising the debt ceiling. Trump's comments seemed to be less about solving the immediate problem of the shutdown and more about creating a narrative that would benefit him politically. Trump's call to delay the CR and link it to the debt ceiling raised the stakes for Republicans. Many began to ask, why would Republicans, especially those who are already in a weakened position, listen to Trump's incoherent ramblings at the expense of keeping the government running? The answer, it seems, lies in Trump's ability to manipulate the GOP base and pressure lawmakers into towing his line. The Republican dilemma. With both Trump and Musk opposing the CR, MAGA Mike Johnson found himself stuck between a rock and a hard place. Johnson, who had been elected Speaker of the House largely because of his alignment with the Trump wing of the party, now faced an insurrection from the very same forces. His attempt to keep the government running was thwarted by the very people who had promised him support. Senator Susan Collins, one of the GOP's top appropriators, voiced her surprise at Trump's sudden demand to link the debt ceiling to the CR. Collins, who has long been a stabilizing force in the Senate, expressed confusion over why Trump would push for such a demand, especially when it made little sense in the context of the immediate crisis. Collins' surprise is reflective of the broader chaos within the Republican Party, a party that seems to be led by billionaires and media moguls, rather than elected officials. At the same time, the reality of the shutdown became more pressing. Without a new budget or a continuing resolution, the government would cease to function. This posed serious risks for American families who depend on government programs and services. Federal workers, from law enforcement officers to medical researchers, would face uncertainty. The shutdown would be devastating for the economy, as it would hurt growth and could lead to a loss of public trust in the government's ability to function. What comes next? The threat of a shutdown. The situation now teeters on the edge of disaster. The CR has been effectively killed, and there is no clear path forward. MAGA Mike Johnson, once the hopeful face of a new Republican leadership, is now caught in a political crossfire. His inability to unify the party, coupled with the relentless pressure from Trump and Musk, has led to a potential government shutdown. Republicans, who have long touted themselves as the party of fiscal responsibility, now face a crisis of their own making. The shutdown could severely damage the GOP's public image, especially if it leads to widespread economic hardship. The shutdown would likely result in cuts to services that are crucial for working-class Americans, further alienating the very people the GOP claims to represent. In the background, the political maneuvering continues. Trump and Musk have made their intentions clear. They want to force a showdown over the debt ceiling, using the shutdown as leverage. But the question remains, will Republicans give in to their demands, or will they take the risk of allowing a shutdown to unfold? As we stand on the brink of a government shutdown, the fallout from this political drama is clear. The Republican Party is fractured, and MAGA Mike Johnson is left holding the bag. Trump and Musk, two figures who have dominated conservative politics, have used their influence to derail the CR and plunge the country into uncertainty. The future remains unclear, but the damage has already been done. For now, the focus is on whether Republicans can come together and find a solution, or whether the party will remain in disarray, driven by billionaires and political infighting. The American people are watching closely, and the consequences of this shutdown will be felt far beyond Washington, D.C. As we await the next move from Trump, Musk and MAGA Mike Johnson, one thing is certain. This crisis has exposed the deep dysfunction within the Republican Party. What started as an effort to prevent a shutdown has now become a symbol of the chaos that has overtaken the GOP. How this will all unfold is anyone's guess, but one thing is clear. The American people will be the ones who bear the brunt of the consequences.